So the Orthodox Muslim responds to the logical problem of the Quran. Well, what is the logical problem of the Quran? Well, it's put simply. Using the Orthodox Muslims' classical counting method, which is we first count by one, concept relativity, and two, by indiscernibles of identity, which is to say that if there's any difference in property, you count multiple instances of that concept, of that thing. Applying this to the Quran, if we have two variant recitations, and we know they're variant because they differ in a property, right? You have one reciting a certain phrase this way, and then there's a different way in another. Then you have two Qurans. Well, what is the Orthodox Muslim solution? Well, he says, fine, you have two Qurans in the first sense, in the sense that a Quran is an individual 114 chapter book, which is a revelation in a certain recitation. But then he says, number two, as you'll see here,
or of a given recitation. So then we could take two possible accounts here to battle this supposed problem. When we say there is one Quran, we could mean that there's one revelation that occurred in the 7th century that was continuous, and it started at one point, it ended at another point, and that includes all the ahruf. So then each recitation or each harf would be a part of the Quran. And so you have one entire revelation and each recitation is a part. So this is a part whole account, and we have no problem with saying this. According to this account,
he says, well, in the second sense, which is how we really solve the problem, is that we take Quran to mean the set of all individual recitations or modes or variants, right? So he's saying that these explicitly, he says that these are parts of the Quran, of the total Quran. Well, has he solved the issue by saying this? Well, no. Really, it's kind of embarrassing because the recitations or the problem that Christians are pointing to is not merely that there's a difference in translation, but there's a fundamental variant difference in meanings of these recitations, right? They're contradictory. They're opposed, right? They're contraries. They're not compatible, right? If that's the case, and he's then saying, well, we just take the Quran to be the set of all individual parts, which are the set of all individual variants, then he's saying that a Quran is a set of contradictory variants. Okay, well, if that's the route you want to take, it's pretty ironic because, you know, the Orthodox Muslim is constantly saying that, you know, Jesus Christ has contradictory properties in the incarnation. He's God, he's not God. Well, now he's just blatantly admitted that what the Quran really is a set of parts that are mutually incompatible. They're contradictory, right? In one sense, one Quran says this happened, and another sense the Quran says this did not happen, rather something else happened. So, okay, you want to fix the logical problem of the Quran? Go ahead, say that they're all contradictory parts, and those contradictory parts in conjunction is what the Quran is.
Count that we could take is that when we say there's one Quran, all we mean is that there's one Quran qualitatively, meaning that Quran here is a quality given to something. There's this one quality Quran, and so we could say there's one Quran in that sense.
Okay, so for his second solution, he says we can take Quran as a quality. Okay, well, let's do that. Now remember, the issue was that there's multiple different recitations with not just multiple different translations, but with completely distinct meanings. So according to him, there's just one Quran because they both have this quality, like think of it like a universal, a single universal of which is instanced or instantiated in these multiple physical texts. Now, what he's admitting then is that each Quran can have not just different translations, like we're translating, you know, Arabic into the English, but mutually incompatible meanings. So if that's the case, then, and it's just a quality, then what he's admitting is that there's absolutely nothing stopping some Muslim from going out tomorrow, changing 10 words in the Quran, in the Hafs Quran, and printing a new one just because he wanted to change a couple words, and saying, well, this still has the quality of being Quran. Well, of course, Orthodox Muslims going to say, no, you can't do that. Well, then it seems then that just saying there's some quality is not enough to tell us what it means for there to be one Quran. It's not enough to just say there's one quality, because remember, previously he allowed there to be multiple, not just different translations, but incompatible meanings in Quran. And he's saying what makes them all one is they have the same quality of being the Quran. Well, then again, what that would mean is that different meanings in different Qurans do not stop the quality from being the same in each one, which means that anyone can go and write a new Quran, and as long as it has that quality of being Quran, just in virtue of having different words or people changing the words to different meanings, it would not stop it just in virtue of that from being the Quran. So, okay, define the Quran as either parts in which you have multiple contradictory Qurans. So the Quran, the one Quran in that sense, is just a compilation of contradictory meanings. Or two, you define it as a quality in which that means that you can create more Qurans, and someone can arbitrarily create 10 more Qurans and just change 5, 10 words in there. And because it has the quality, and because you didn't restrict the possibility of there being fundamentally different meanings, even if it's a single word, that means that the saying it's a quality alone does not restrict that, which means in principle, the person or anyone could create an infinite amount of different Qurans with drastically different meanings. Unless, of course, he wants to give another qualification in which he would have to restrict what it means for there to be one Quran, in which he would then have to admit that just saying it's a quality is not enough.